talking about the indices for picking these persons and how practicable they are. What will be the indices? What will be the yardstick for, these people if they haven't gone through the processes and convicted by the courts, and then the UK can say that they are picking them up?
Yeah. I just also wanted to add to my co-guest thoughts there that maybe I'm not even as confident that the UK does not support financial corruption because we also know that as an institution of state, the massive looting of Africa, both for slavery and during colonialism, are something that the states of the United Kingdom is still years to pay reparations for and to own up to the fact that it looted the Benin artworks and they need to return it. A thief is a thief is a thief. So maybe let's start with that. But anyway, moving on to this issue around how do you even identify and how do you cannot be the judge, the prosecutor, and the jury in your own case. The United Kingdom cannot, by reason of innuendos or by reason of allegations by one side, by the way, in Africa's political culture, that we know that we have a lot of bad losers, make wild allegations without also coming forward to say, okay, this is what I also did during the election. You must come to the altar of equity, you must do so with clean hands. As UK bans and unbans, will it be subjected to judicial review? Who gives them the right to automatically or unilaterally determine who gets to be punished or who doesn't get to be punished? Does this not constitute an interference on the sovereignty of the country so involved, in this case Nigeria? Not the mean country by any chance, the largest economy in Africa, the richest country in the history of the world that is black. Is this not another form of institutionalized international racism, where United Kingdom does not ban the United States for its own insurrection after his last election led by Donald Trump, but decides that it's now going to get involved or interwoven in Nigeria's election? Why did it not ban the United States when Putin got involved in that election and compromised the process, which was widely acknowledged even by the United States itself and its electoral system? Why did it not get involved in Brazil? Why did it not get involved in these other white countries, but suddenly discovered its sanctimony when it comes to Nigeria? By the way, this is the same United Kingdom in 2015, where it was discovered that there were technical glitches across its own election that was held on May 7th, 2015. Over 100 people were unable to cast their vote in Bournemouth. Over in Hackney and Dorset, there were technical glitches and information technology, not very different from what INEC experienced. Electoral Commission investigated issues around overseas voting that did not receive their voting packs on election day. In Tower Hamlets, the High Court suspended the mayor after he was found guilty of falsifying postal votes. I mean, these are issues that the UK's own electoral system continues to have. So when is it going to ban its own citizens and its own people from participating in its own election and then stop just prognosing it? The days of colonialism are over. I think these colonial masters need to mind their own business. They need to leave Nigeria's judicial system that has proven to be able to weed out the bad eggs. And they need to allow Nigeria to go through its own political evolution. Like I said, the United Kingdom left Nigeria with less than 10,000 educated literates in 1960 and expected Nigeria to have a functional democracy. It took Nigeria some step backwards and the engagement in some, military rule that allowed it to mature and then come back to this democracy in 1999 with at least 30 million literate voters, which is what it is now operating with. So I think to some extent, the United Kingdom should acknowledge that Nigeria is a much better off as a country that was left with no university. University College Ibadan was the only so-called university, but was an outpost of the University of London in 1960, to be an essential ingredient of democracy being the ability of people to even read and write their own constitution, literacy, and left Nigeria with no capacity to function as a democracy in 1960. But 30, 40 years later, we're able to find our way to do so, and we are doing so, yet we are a child. We are not the same as the United Kingdom, relatively, when it comes to democracy, that have been operating the Magna Carta since the 1700s, and the parliament since then. But we also have our history. They have their history of Cromwell and the dictators and the crown and the succession rights and all the crown, the battles of the roses and the crown back in the 1700s and 1600s. Their own dictator, their own coup that was planned, that Cromwell. They outgrew that process. This is a process. Democracy is progress, but a process. They should stop making it look like democracy is some magic that we imposed by some kind of white masters. We need to stop this level of international racism, and the United Kingdom has always been guilty of this and trying to always exacerbate the problem of Africa. Rather, what it should focus on is the progress that Nigeria has made from 1999, when Bill Clinton and Tony Blair were voters on our voters' roll, to today, where we now have BVAS, we have PVC, we have made a lot of progress when it means accrediting voters. Yes, there's progress needs to be made when it comes to issue around voter intimidation, use of information technology. Similar progress that needs to be made in the United Kingdom. There's progress that needs to be made in case of not bringing or injecting ethnicity and religion into the election. Similar to progress that needs to be made in the United Kingdom, where they have issues of ethnicity and racism when it comes to black and white voters. We have the same things between different ethnic groups in Nigeria. Every country have their issues and peculiar issues. Nobody's sanctioning UK. Why should anybody be sanctioning Nigeria? Right. Nobody's willingly picking out British people that are involved in these problems in Cromwell and Bournemouth, as I've already read out. Why is anybody picking out the Nigerian politician without actually going through the Nigerian judicial process? I think we need to speak to the fact the United Kingdom needs to focus on its own internal problem, return the loot that they looted from Nigeria instead of focusing on Nigeria.
Our guest via Zoom, talking about Michael, mentioned the fact that this can constitute some level of interference in our sovereignty as a country. Do you see it as that?
Absolutely. That's the way it's perceived generally. I mean, this is a sovereign nation, and another sovereign nation trying to step into their affairs. That's why I alluded earlier, that we have our own internal mechanisms of dealing with issues like this. So the best the UK can do is that, okay, fine, we have observed certain anomalies. Then you can come up with your own white paper, blue paper, yellow paper, then send to the government that these are the things we have seen. Not you standing there and then saying that this is what we would do to perceived electoral offenders in your country. That is condescending, and that's also overreaching. And it sounds like they're grandstanding, that after all, you're a former colony. So we can actually still look into your affairs and play that oversight role and all. It doesn't appear, the optics are not particularly in favor of Nigeria. I mean, they're still dealing with us like a big brother, and this is my last born. Like, I'm still controlling your affairs. It doesn't appear too nice with the way they're going about it. So the best way they could go about it is by getting in touch with the government and saying, these are our observations, and then this is what we feel. I mean, we recommend that you do or take care of this, or with subsequent elections, these are the things. If they come out like that, then it shows a good relationship, or that they're being relational in a good way than, looking at Nigeria in a very condescending manner that, okay, we'll pick this. And I said something earlier, which is very fundamental. We saw some of this, the UK and also the Western world project a certain candidate. Now, so how do you tell us? How do you eliminate bias? Because, and then you see this thing also, we've seen supporters of certain groups and parties come out and say, particularly when they lose in certain quarters, they go like, we'll call the United Nations, we'll call on the UK. We've seen tweets like that, that they should ban this person, they should look into this. So this thing is not going in the right direction, because at the end of the day, you give some people some leeway, some undue influence, because they feel, okay, now if this happens, let's report him to the UK. Who's the UK? Is the UK our father? No, it doesn't work like that. This is a sovereign country, and our sovereignty must be respected. Now, they can contribute because they also have vested interests. You cannot deny their interests, both economic, political, and everything. And they have a right to protect whatever they have, but not in a condescending manner. They have to come in a relational manner, and not something that you want to come and oversee what's going on in Nigeria, then with sanction, it doesn't work like that. I can't come into your house and do the same thing. And I think Michael also said that some things happened in the U.S. We didn't see the UK step up and say, no, U.S. too was a former colony. And then they didn't say that. Now, so it's undermining our sovereignty. basically, I feel the statement undermines Nigeria's sovereignty, and it's not supposed to be in the League of Nations. No country is bigger than the other one. So that's my opinion.